to the next episode of The Lisa Pizik Show, talking about building relationships today. And I know you've heard that. You've heard things like there's fortune in the follow-up, and we have to build trust, and we have to build relationships, and that's the foundation of having a successful business. But have you ever thought, how do I do that? What is the first step that I take? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today on this episode. And I've got my great friend Janice Porter here with me today. Janice, hello.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. Your energy and enthusiasm just builds mine to a peak. I'm excited.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. You know so much about relationships. This is like your thing. And I'm so honored that we can have you here and dive into this because it's so needed. Now, let me tell you about Janice. So Janice began her career as a teacher. She was a corporate trainer and has now been in business for herself for several years. She found her niche coaching and training business professionals to network at a mastery level and turn their connections into new business. For Janice, why I have her here, it's all about relationships. Now, I love this line. First and foremost is her family. She is very proud of her 2 daughters and appreciates the support of her husband through all that she does. She has an innate curiosity and has leveraged that into building business relationships and teaches others how to do the same. Connecting people is a skill. So see, guys, it's a skill you can learn. And she feels that it will be managed most professionally as she holds her relationships very dearly. Now, we're going to dive in and talk about LinkedIn. I know that's an area of expertise for you. LinkedIn training is a huge part of her business. Anyone in business looking for a new position needs to have a professional LinkedIn profile. And LinkedIn is so different than Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And that's kind of a beast in itself, but such a powerful one, right? Because people go there to do business and to build relationships. So I'm so excited to have you here. So let's dig right in. When you teach people or you hear building relationships, what does that mean to you? What is the core of that so they know what we're talking about?
That's a great question because I think a buzzword around today is relationship marketing. And I can probably answer your question by putting that into perspective because most people, when you say the term relationship marketing, they focus on marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people in my world and how I teach it is to focus 80% of the time on the word relationship, not the word marketing. So what does that look like when you're trying to build relationships? What it means is show somebody that you're interested in them rather than trying to sell them whatever it is that you have. Because until you show people that you care, here's an old phrase by, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt, that fits so perfectly here. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Think about that. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. So when you get people pitching immediately to you, it's a turnoff usually. Right? So, how do you build a relationship or start a relationship? You start it by asking questions, by trying to find out what that person is all about. And that is, that's the core of starting to get people to trust you, to like you, to know, like, and trust you, right? To know you, like you, trust you. So it seems easy, but it's actually an art. I mean, you really have to think about what will make this person understand where I'm coming from, that I want to serve them, that I'm curious about what they have to offer and how I can fit in and help them.
I love curiosity, leading with curiosity.
Yeah.
We forget about that because we're so afraid, I think, of not knowing what to say or saying the right things or am I getting the messaging right? I can remember when I was in Brendan Burchard's mastermind, he was telling us about this really high level client, like speaker. incredible. Like, he didn't want to name the name, but he's like, you would all know who he is. Like, incredible speaker. He said he was pitching a new program, and he had Brendan in to look over his sales, marketing and messaging and his speech and the whole bit. And Brendan came in and he's like, one thing you're doing wrong. One thing. People don't feel that you care. He's like, your posturing is great, the way you're speaking, your style, your expertise, your flow, the content. He's like, but there's just this titch of, we don't know if you actually care if I get it. Like, you're speaking at me instead of speaking to me. You're speaking and doing what you know instead of being here with us. And I was like, whoa, right? And that involves getting curious, not necessarily throwing out the script.
Right.
But when you say curiosity, what's something they can do? Lead with a question, or what's something they can do to get more curious when they're talking to clients or potential clients?
Well, so if I'm doing this generally nowadays, I'm doing it online. I'm starting a conversation online. For me, typically on LinkedIn, but sometimes on Facebook. The thing I love about LinkedIn is that I can actually be more direct in a faster way than beating around the social bush, so to speak, on Facebook. But what I would do is, if someone has reached out to me, for example, to connect, I always would check their profile first to have a look at where I can find a starting point for a conversation of interest to both of us. Is there a place to build rapport? So, for example, Lisa, although we were introduced by a mutual friend, I still had to get a sense of who you were before I spoke to you. And all I could see was it was about relationships and building relationships and all of the things that you do. So right away, I knew there was a way in. There was a way that we could naturally build rapport. If I'll give you a very small example of something that happened to me. So, and again, I was referred to this person to do LinkedIn training. I didn't know the person. I just knew the person, our mutual connection. So I went to this man's profile and I looked at his profile, and I really didn't see anything that I could connect with. His business was something I didn't understand or have any interest in, to be honest. But I had to find a way in so that I could build rapport to see if there was a fit for me to train him. I saw one thing on his profile, and this was back in the day when you could list what your interests were. Now we have to find another way to put them into our profile. And one of the things that he wrote down was rugby. And my husband used to teach rugby. He taught with a guy who was a national level rugby player. So when I had my first this time it was a phone conversation with this guy, I said to him, I saw on your profile that you played rugby. He said, yeah, I actually played in BC when I lived there. And I played for BC, the province of BC. And I said, oh, you don't by any chance know so-and-so, the person that I knew that taught with my husband? He said, yes, actually, I played with him for several years. Well, boom.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't know what it is, but if you ask the right questions, you'll find a way in, right? But you have to have that curiosity or that curious mind to start even looking, right? Another story. I probably have more of those stories. I just have to think of them.
I know, that's a great example. That's a great one of what do you do when you hit that roadblock where you're like, I don't know if we're going to find a common ground. There's always something.
Yeah. So if you're not sure, though, you can always say something like, maybe if they're reaching out to you, then you would say, so how did you find me again? Or, what do you do now to connect with your clients? And so when you ask that kind of question, or tell me a little bit about what you do now in your business, or what your pain point is, or something that starts them talking, because when they start talking, you have to listen, and you have to listen for those clues that will give you the opportunity to show how you can help them without being pitched to start with, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly. We get hit with so many marketing messages 24/7, especially in the social landscape. I don't think LinkedIn maybe is as bad as
Oh,
Facebook.
it can
Oh,
be.
is it?
Yeah.
It's like I can't tell you how many people I check out their profile. They want to be my friend. I check out their profile. I think, yeah, they're doing good work in this world. They seem, fine. I think we could have some mutual connections. I add them as a friend, and literally
Yeah.
5 seconds later, I literally had somebody 5 seconds later write to me and say, "Would you like to book a one-on-one session with me?" with their link.
Oh,
And I'm like, I don't even
know you.
I don't know who you are. You don't know anything about me, but it's become so like we're trying to go all the way before we even have the first handshake. And it's like, no, thank you. It's so off-putting.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of intuition that comes into play as well, that, you know when to do that and when not to, but there's a way to do it, because I have found that I've had success actually faster than some of the people I teach to do this, because I've been doing it for so long, and maybe because of my intuition, I don't know. But sometimes when people reach out to me, I don't know them, but I might see on LinkedIn, you can see who your mutual connections are.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way to say, oh, I see we have lots of common connections, and use that as a starting point. But one of the things that I do is, if that's an example, I'll say, I see that we have a lot of common connections. It feels as though we should have a conversation too. And I usually say, like, I don't do this in the actual link to there's two things. There's inbound and there's outbound. So if somebody reaches in to connect with me, the first thing I do is check their profile. The second thing I do is say, thanks for reaching out to connect.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll say something like, I see we have a lot of connections in common. Is that how you found me? So I'm going to ask a question. I might even overstep one more if I really want to meet this person and say, I know this may seem a little quick. However, I like to make my new connections real, and I put that real in capitals. Would you be open to a conversation, either by Zoom or by phone?
Mm-hmm.
And quite often they go, absolutely, yes, of course, or let's do it, or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's when I start the relationship building.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell that it's not a pre-formatted.
No, it never is with me. But the key word that I haven't used yet is to be authentic.
Authentic. Yeah. Another thing that you said that I wrote down was you led with saying thanks first. Thanks for wanting to connect with me. A thank you.
Of course.
It's such a beautiful door opener as well. A genuine, again, authentic, genuine.
Okay, so now turn it the other way. So now I'm doing the outreach. So I reach out to somebody, and I keep that outreach invitation very small, but at least I do a personalized one, like thought your profile looked interesting, would like to connect. Or if it's someone I've met like you, I then go and try to connect with you online. I think it's something we should do because we're going to be talking. Then it's the acceptance. When you accept it, now I get a notification on LinkedIn that says you've accepted it. Now I go to work. Now I say, thank you for accepting my connection request.
Mm-hmm.
And now I start a conversation.
I
don't just say thank you. I ask a question. I'm trying to create a conversation. And so I think there's another tip for your audience, is to realize that nothing's going to happen unless you make it happen. So it's good to say thank you, but now you have to lead the charge. You have to show that you're interested by asking a question.
I love that. Thank you. And create a conversation. Yes, yes, yes. I even say that when I teach people about live video. People will say there's no engagement. I said, because you didn't give them a reason to engage. You're just talking. Right. You've got to ask them a question. You've got to acknowledge that they're there with you. Give them a reason to keep the conversation going. Yeah.
That's tough to do when you're not comfortable on camera.
Yeah.
And really? Yeah, no, when I'm doing I'm comfortable. on the stage, but this video thing, I don't know.
Really, eh?
It's close. If I think I'm far enough away and you don't see all the wrinkles under my eyes, and it's
Oh, you're gorgeous. Stop.
Is it thing, right? It's just a thing. And the other thing is, like, I've got my screen so that I can see both of us. Do you?
Yes, I do too.
Okay.
Yes.
So quite often, if I'm asked to do a presentation, a high level presentation on somebody's group on Facebook or something, and I just do a conversation about follow-up, or about a presentation about follow-up, or about LinkedIn, or I don't know, anything that I teach, then if I have to use a PowerPoint, which I don't really love to do, but most people like it. So when you use the PowerPoint, I can't see my audience.
Mm-hmm.
Then I need to see my audience.
I know. I'm the same. So I'm going to be part of a summit on Wednesday, and they want me to use slides. And I don't normally ever use slides, again, because I want to connect with people. Yeah. And I told them I'm literally going to be clicking out and clicking in, because I'm like, I can't just talk for 45 minutes with slides.
Yeah, it's really hard. Now, do you have two screens or one screen?
Just the one screen.
So you might be able to set it at speaker view where it says gallery at the top, and you should see people.
Yes. You only see the first, 4 or 5 people or so, right? But yeah, I'm like you. I need, when you're big on relationships and people, right, it throws you off when you can't get anything from anyone. You're like, hello, are you out there? So there's creative ways that we've certainly had to pivot in the pandemic, the way that we serve people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, relationship building, was this something that you always kind of knew, even through your corporate days, and when you first, have you always kind of had this knack of like really getting to know people and serving people, or did it come over time, do you think?
I've always been a people person, and it's always for me about the people and the relationships. So I think it comes back to that innate curiosity. So I would say, yes, I've always had it. I'm the person. So I have a group of friends that are very dear to me that go back to my high school days. That's when I finally was settled. Our family was settled in different, we moved around a lot until my father found a space that worked for him. And we were in the same school now for the rest of the school term. So those friends are really near and dear to me, and they, to this day, and this is many, many, many years later, will say, who is that person? I can't remember. You know, the one who, asked Janice, she'll know, because I have this knack for remembering people and remembering names and remembering where I met them and whatever. Sometimes it's embarrassing, actually, because I'll meet somebody. This happened to me a little while ago. We play bridge, my husband and I, and we were at a bridge game when we could have live bridge games. And there was a couple that came to play against us, and I knew this guy, the husband. I knew him, and I knew exactly where I knew him from. But it was embarrassing because, you know what? It went back to junior high school.
Wow.
Yeah, junior high school.
Wow. So you just have a crazy good memory.
It's fading a little bit now, but yes, generally speaking.
That's amazing. And I always remember that, like, when people tell me their name, I have to say it because it's important for me to remember. Because I don't just want to be like, oh yeah, nice to meet you. Da, 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 da.
That's one good way to do it. Yep.
Yeah, because I found I used to almost not pay attention because I'd want to get right into the conversation. And then someone would come over.
Finish talking so I can talk.
Yeah, right. Or someone would come over and I'd want to introduce, and I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot their name. How embarrassing. Like, they're going to think I wasn't paying attention.
So I used to teach that, actually, in some of my customer service courses back in the day. And you probably heard the term, say the name 3 times in the conversation. Yeah. So that's one way. Some people remember well that way. But if you don't remember somebody's name, and I'm still teaching my husband this after all these years, don't leave me standing there. Don't leave me standing there and don't introduce me. If you don't remember the person's name, just say, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, to my wife, Janice, and then I'll take over. At
Yes.
least then, my name's Janice, and they'll tell me their name.
Yes.
But yeah. So a little, and then other people are better at creating an image, right? And so when you say your name is Lisa, I'd have to either think of a connection like another Lisa that I know, or create something. Lisa has 4 letters. Think of there's people that do these mnemonics. So Lisa has 4 letters. So think of a table with 4 legs, and they do all these weird things. Yeah.
Really?
That's not the way I learned. So it doesn't work for me, but there are people that do that have
Yeah.
a whole system. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Now, what about the introverts that are so afraid, big mission, big drive, want to do some things, want to get out there, or even like first time speakers that want to put themselves out there? I get so many people that are so afraid to connect. What do we tell the introverts that have this fear of saying the wrong thing or whatever fears they have that stop them?
First of all, to be authentic and to be real, right? Because we all make mistakes and we all think we're going to say the wrong thing. So there's nothing you can really just say, this is new for me, or listen, I don't, let me think. Don't try and meet everybody at the same time, right? Just test the waters with a few people at a time. So as we all have to, as you use that current word, pivot to working online and so on, for some people, that's actually scary because we're seeing like more people in a group online than we might have to talk to at once if we were in a face-to-face situation, for example. So maybe just focus on listening and speaking when it makes sense or when you're asked, but just don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Just say, hey, this is new for me. I just, this is what I do. And if anyone's interested to speak to me offline after or something, just know that what you have to say is as important as what anybody else has to say. And maybe you have a close friend, a business associate that's on the call, let's say, with you or in the situation with you that can give you feedback after. I think, I'm not sure if we were talking about this, but follow up to any of that is where the work is going to be done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Talk a bit about that importance of the follow up and what that looks like for them.
Well, I think what it looks like, first of all, is for you to be the proactive person in that follow up. Just like I said, when you're creating a relationship, you want to be the person starting the conversation. You want to guide it as best you can to get them talking. You also want to be the person to actually do the follow-up, because whether it's to create the relationship or to move towards a sale, or a prospect towards a sale, you have to know that in most cases today, as far as I can remember, when it comes to sales, there's a huge disconnect between the number of touches or the number of times you talk to a prospect and the number of times it takes for them to make a decision. Does that make sense? So what I mean by that is the majority of people will follow up once and then give up. A few more people will follow up twice and then give up. And maybe 2% will follow up 3 times and then it's over. But most sales aren't made until the 5th to 12th follow-up. So what major disconnect, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's over days, weeks, or months, or whether it's a question of realizing 2 things. 1, don't be attached to that outcome because they haven't said no yet. And number 2, keep following up until they say no. Because timing is important. Their timing, not yours.
I love the theme of what's coming across. And again, I know it's common sense isn't always common practice, but it's about them. It's about them and their timing and
Right.
their interesting things that you can start asking questions about and lead and creating a conversation and you asking them questions. You know,
And you know what? You could even say in the follow-up, okay, I understand timing's not right for you right now. When would you like me to follow up with you? Right? And
mhm.
make them part of that decision.
Yes.
And then make sure you put it on your calendar and you do what you say you're going to do.
I love that so much. Even sometimes when I finish an email, I'll even say, I look forward to hearing back from you, which time will work. Or again, sometimes people always end with like, thank you, talk to you later.
No,
When
yeah,
is later?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
again,
Well,
yeah.
you bring up another point when someone says, well, why don't you call me next week? In that nebulous calendar week, right? And so what are you going to do then? So maybe the introvert is going to say, okay, but I challenge them to push it a little bit and say, look, I know we both have busy schedules. I'm happy to call you next week. When is a good day for you? Wednesday, Thursday, morning, afternoon? Get them to pinpoint it so you actually put it on your calendar. I'm going to put 10 o'clock Thursday on my calendar. Make sure you put it on yours. I'll follow up and confirm just before.
I love that. And I always think do it when you're there together. Because
Mhm.
you say, oh, I'll email you, or it just gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Which
Or,
brings me to another point. Oh my God,
go.
the email gets lost in the shuffle. So why not do something different sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
I think the email is necessary or text because it's quick to just do, hey, I really enjoyed talking to you yesterday on the Zoom call or whatever it was. Looking forward to catching up and finding out more about you. Now you also send a card or a note or something tangible, right?
Oh my gosh, I love this so much because before we hopped on, listeners, I was sharing with Janice that I got her care package that she sent me. So Ginger Johnson, who's a good friend of both of ours, she first introduced me to Janice.
Right.
And Ginger is all about handwritten, letters, like good old fashioned snail mail. And whenever I get a letter from her, it sparks so much joy. And now Janice, we just met last week, I believe it was, or the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And literally, guys, 10 minutes before we clicked in to do this podcast, on my doorstep was this amazing, beautiful card and two of the most delicious brownies that I have ever seen in my entire life. And the cutest part in the card was Janice added how she likes to eat the brownies with the scoop of ice cream. So there was a bit of personalization that made me happy and made me remember our first conversation and excited to hop on and do this podcast. So you and Ginger both are really opening my eyes to sending people
Right?
cards or just something. We do that for clients around Christmas and birthdays and those kinds of milestones, but it's like the just because.
That's it. The just because. Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think people overthink that. Like whether there's a service that you've obviously used a service that can send that, or what are some tips from very beginner to maybe some services or something that they can use, like just that Ginger and her good old fashioned hand letter card does
Yeah,
it
so
too.
that becomes somewhat tedious for some people if they have a lot of people to stay connected to, right? And some people are still, and I love Ginger and I love that she likes to do handwriting and so on, and I'm okay with that because I used to be that person, but my signature and my handwriting font are in my system. And the thing that I can do with the system I use is I can add your photo, I can make the card about you, I can add your images, and I can brand the back of the card. And I think now the thing that a lot of people well, they're not my people, the people that do this, just understand this. There are people who get it, and there are people who think they get it, but they still want to make it all about them, and because they're insecure about it. And so what they do is they'll send you a card, but the front of the card is all about them. It's their business. It's their image. It's their logo. Are you going to save that? No. But if your child's picture's on the front or your family picture's on the front, are you going to save that? Yes. That's the feeling I want to create. So it's a major difference. It's thinking about it again from the client perspective, the prospect perspective. Make their day. Yes, you can brand the back. But if I send a birthday card, I don't put my branding fully big time on the back. I might put something about me so you can get hold of me, but I'll also maybe put a birthday balloon or something, like.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you got a birthday card that said, "Happy birthday, Janice. Oh, by the way, my birthday's on December 30th too, didn't you know?"
Yeah, but you see, that's the same thing. I get this handwritten Christmas card every year with a dutiful full-page Christmas letter about how wonderful their family had been during the year. Not only that, but they put their realtor business card in it.
I know. It's all about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about them.
If I can just give one message across, it's about showing people that you care.
And I think a lot of times I teach about a brand emotion in everything that we do. So people, when they hear branding, they think logos and fonts and colors. And I take it a step further and say brand emotion. I mean, how do you want people to feel? Like, what is that brand emotion when you send that card or send that gift? You want people to feel joy. If your brand emotion is joy, what does that gift need to look like then to bring joy? Because slapping your stuff all over it, you're right. And people know, like, we're not dumb. You know when you get something just because, and you're more apt to follow up and come back to that person when it's a just because, then when it's a very clear,
So what we teach with the company that I'm affiliated with for the cards and the gifts, we teach to send out to give 80% of the time. So that relationship marketing piece, again, I'll come right back to that. Send out to give 80% of the time, and to get or to market 20% of the time. And what that looks like is when you send me a birthday card, don't say, and I love referrals, please send me a referral.
Yeah.
Send it as a birthday card. The 20% piece means out of 4 cards, 3 cards are to give, and the 4th card is, hey, I really value your business. Who do you know that might value mine as well, right? Something like that.
That's smart, and that's marketing done right. Because I say you have to earn the right to sell.
Exactly.
And that's what I teach all my people is value, 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 no selling. And then on the 4th,
we're on the same page.
Yeah. So that's perfectly in line, with education-based marketing that gets you more bang for your buck and builds relationships.
Right.
So I love that. And people are so, I've been hearing a lot of people saying, oh, well, I got to cut to the chase sooner because, people don't even open that 3rd email. And it's like, but you got to give them a reason too. Mm-hmm. Right? If they know that you're just hitting them with a sale the first time you talk to them, they're going to unsubscribe. They're not going to open your stuff. You're never going to get to have that curiosity and that conversation and that follow-up because they're going to go.
They don't care.
Right. Yeah.
They're about the numbers. They're a different type of person.
Yeah. They're not my people either. And those people, we hope that they wake up and realize there's a better way, right? And they'll come around. So my last question, I think for you is LinkedIn. What made you because again, people get very overwhelmed with Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram, and I could go on forever of all the social media platforms. What made you choose LinkedIn as your go-to?
I think 2 things. One, that when it was shown to me, I was still struggling with all the others because I don't like, I am an heart on your sleeve kind of person, but I didn't feel comfortable putting my whole life out on Facebook and so on. And so when I saw LinkedIn, I saw that it was more of a business platform and that it was very logical, and I'm very left brain in lots of things. So for me, I could see myself understanding it. And then I realized I started teaching it to people, and it brought me back to my roots and was able to teach again. And I'm so glad that I can, because I love teaching. And this was an easy one for me to teach. It works for me. And because of it being a business platform, my clients, my prospects are business owners and business professionals. And that's where they are. So that's why.
I love that. What did you teach when you were a teacher?
I taught elementary school.
Oh,
Yeah.
the best. And you've got little ones now, right? You were telling me.
I have a little granddaughter who's just about one. Yes. And it's so much fun to be able to start to teach her, and seeing the little mind work. It's so much fun.
Oh, I could see you as teacher of little ones. You've got that. Yeah, I could see you as the heart on your sleeve. I see that in you. I think that's why we instantly connected too. You know that, again, that intuition, when you feel that energy from someone. So I love that. There are lots of ways that our listeners can keep in touch with you. You've got a podcast, Relationships Rule podcast. That's exciting. And then where should they go to find out more about you?
They can go to janiceporter.com, my website, and there's a couple of free offers there if people are interested. The one I recommend for your audience is an ebook called 7-Step Formula to Creating Business Relationships That Last. It'll give you a little bit of a reminder about some of the things that we talked about. And they can also, if they're intrigued or if they're on LinkedIn, they can certainly go and reach out to me on LinkedIn and tell them that they heard me on your podcast, and I'd love to start a conversation. Yes.
And listeners, I hope you take her up on the offer. I know I am. LinkedIn is the platform that I do the least on. And with full disclosure, yet that's exactly where I want to be to help others build their business. So I am taking advantage of all of the goodness Janice is going to teach me about LinkedIn, as well as how to connect with people through the gifts and the cards. And again, just building that relationship a little bit deeper. So if you reach out to her, know that I am doing it right alongside with you. Janice, you're such a gem. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're most welcome. I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to interviewing you on my podcast.
Yes, that's my favorite, when I get to have people on and then I get to be on there. So yes, I'm going to be on hers Relationships Rule podcast. And
genius.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So listeners, thank you for being here with us today. I know there are lots of places you can spend your time, especially now, whether you've got a lot of time or you've got very, very, very little time, right? You're being intentional about where you spend it. So thank you for spending this time with us, and we'll see you again next time on The Lisa Pizik Show.